I'm a certified nurse midwife, and I have a practice called Monarch Midwifery in Fayetteville, and we do home birth.
Oh, nice.
Oh yes, so crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'm here today to try to educate you young ladies on how to help women when they are in labor. So there's no question that's stupid. Please feel free to ask whatever is on your minds. I'm a Yankee, so I'm from New Jersey, so I have really broad shoulders. I don't take anything personal. And hopefully we'll have a really fun educational day today. I started Monarch Midwifery. The majority of my career still is as a nurse. So I was a single mom and decided, I cannot raise my kids, my 2 children, as a medical assistant. And so I need to figure out what I want to do. I never liked high school. I'm actually a high school dropout and decided I need to make something of myself. And I put myself into nursing school. And at that time, I just knew I wanted to be a nurse. I didn't know I was going to be a midwife. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I just knew that I liked helping people, and so I was going to jump into this. My rotation in nursing, labor and deliveries, when I fell in love and I knew I will do this for the rest of my life. So I started at a very small community hospital. Okay, so then I graduated nursing school, right? And everybody says, you have to do a year of med surg first. And I was like, do you know me? I'm not doing that. And they're like, really? Like, you need experience? No hospital's going to hire you. And I was like, okay, well, so I gave myself a timeline. So I would do search for labor and delivery jobs for 3 months, and then I would go to like mother baby or antepartum, but my love really was labor and delivery. So I found a small community hospital. They hired me. I started in labor and delivery. It was a midwife-based hospital. No one really got an epidural. It was a very high Hispanic population, and everybody just went natural, and I learned how to be a labor coach. And I loved, loved, loved it. Now I'm making enough money, I've had some experience, I'm going to buy a home, I'm a night nurse, so I moved closer to my grandmother who's going to help me with my children, and I think I'm just going to get a job at that big hospital down the road. Now I have labor and delivery experience. My soul hurt going into the hospital, and I thought, damn, I have to go back to school. I didn't want to do that because I couldn't do that for the rest of my life. So I felt like I went from being a labor and delivery nurse to a professional desk sitter where we watched monitors. Everybody who came in was medically managed and had an epidural. I think we had probably a 95 to 98% epidural rate. So, we were planning our inductions and our C-sections, and everybody was just really medically managed. So I had to go back to school to become a midwife. And that's where, my journey has taken me. So I was a labor and delivery nurse for over 9 years, and I worked in the hospital for 2 before I started my home birth practice. So when somebody said home birth to me, when I moved to Kentucky, married my husband, all right, we're gonna start here, I was like, what are you people doing? That is the craziest thing ever in the whole wide world. Where are they birthing? There's a hospital in every corner. Why aren't we going to the hospital? So what I didn't realize is when I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, women didn't have choices. So every hospital was medically managed. Where in New Jersey, that crazy hospital that I worked at, we had choices. You could go over the bridge and have your birth center birth. You could go to the smaller hospital where you could labor in the tub, not necessarily deliver in there, but labor in there. You had midwifery practices to choose from, and there were lots of different options of which direction you wanted to go. When I moved into Lexington, there were 2 midwives. One was actually dying of ovarian cancer, and 5 hospitals, and that was it. And so the choices were you either delivered at home or you had a medically managed birth. And so I really thought it was totally crazy. And I was a midwife at that time. So I had already done nursing, I already was a midwife, I totally believed in natural childbirth, but I thought home birth, you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Until I started to do my homework and educated myself on how safe home birth can be if it's done the right way. And that's how my practice got started. So I thought, okay, so if these women are gonna be having a home birth, then they need to be safe, and we need to help them be safe. And that's how Monarch Midwifery got started. And so then my husband said, I get dumber and dumber every year that I stay here in Kentucky because he's a surgeon and wasn't doing the surgeries that he needed, and so we moved to North Carolina. So we've been here now for over 6 years. So we just opened back up Monarch Midwifery once we got here. So it's a totally different perspective, and I understand where, you know, lots of your brains are probably kind of going to, like, oh, that's crazy, that's dangerous, I could never do that. I would never want to do that. I would never recommend that. I was there. So don't feel like I said you're going to hurt my feelings, because I was, you know, sitting in your chair if you're doubting Thomas. And I'm willing to, you know, talk about it. Yeah, other than that, I'm going to teach you how to work with women when they're uncomfortable. A big part of our problem in our hospitals here, locally in North Carolina, is our nursing staff, and they don't get it. And so you bring in your own prejudice and you bring in your own judgments to the families. And you might not even realize that you're doing it, or how much your affect affects a laboring mom. And so if we can't sway you to our side, we at least want you to be aware to be neutral, right? That it's not your baby, it's not your decision. When I meet with my parents for the very first time, before they have a prenatal visit, we do a meet and greet where they're interviewing me and I'm interviewing them. And I tell them all the time, the three of us never have to agree. My job is to give you the information, the good, the bad, the ugly. Your job is to make a decision with your spouse of what you're going to do for your child, because it's not my child. Me and my husband make decisions for our children, right? So, you know, if you can keep that perspective moving forward in nursing, that you don't have to agree with your patients, with your clients, with their choices, you just have to respect them as long as they have the information moving forward. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to introduce you to Rachael, who, I mean, how do we both wind up in Fayetteville, North Carolina? I have no idea. But who sought me out about 2 years ago. She is a midwife from the UK.
Hello,
Rach.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's really nice to be here with you all. I'm really excited to have the chance to come and share some of my knowledge with you. I, as Donna said, have been here in Fayetteville for about 2 years. My husband, of course, is military, indirectly, so that's what's brought me here. I have been a midwife since 2000, and I trained in what we call in the UK our direct entry program. So I didn't do nursing, I did 3 years of pure midwifery. I was lucky enough to do a lot of my clinical placements as a student, and then my first 2 years of practice as a midwife in a very low-risk hospital in a very small kind of countryside town in England, and it was very non-invasive, let things progress normally, don't interfere, don't break waters, don't do vaginal exams unless it's indicated. And then we did have our fair share of epidurals as well, and C-sections, so I got kind of a really good mix that way in my training. And I then went and worked in the Middle East for 10 years, and that was like a baptism of fire, like a vertical learning curve. So I ended up being there, as I said, for 10 years. I went for 1 year, I thought I'll go have a little adventure and see somewhere different, and yeah, stayed for 10 years. Crazy. So that was such a learning curve. I saw things that I never thought went on in the world. I saw things I never thought existed. I learnt how lucky I was to be a Western woman with a Western passport and choices, and to be able to make my own choices about where I go, when I go there, who I marry, when I have a baby, how many babies I have if I don't want to have a baby. So a lot of the clients I was looking after had been, you know, they were in arranged marriages and they ended up having up to maybe 15 children, one baby after another. That was really their role. You're there to have children.
On average?
Not on average.
Okay.
Wow. But a lot. Like a family of 4 was a small family. So if you have 4 children, that was a small family. A lot of the younger population there was starting to have smaller families, but their parents would have, you know, kind of a minimum of 6 to 10 children, but they would also have their fathers maybe would have other wives, so they would maybe have, you'd be like, oh, so how many brothers and sisters do you have? Oh, well, my dad has, you know, 5 children with my mom and he has 6 children with his other wife. So you'd be like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was very interesting, and very interesting from a midwifery perspective, because the way that they approach labour and the way that they deal with pain was completely different to what I've seen in the UK. So yeah, I really learned a lot. But I went from this low risk unit in England where we did water births, and you know, as I say, we didn't really interfere, to like, let's get them in, let's get the baby born, and let's get them out again. So it really was a conveyor belt. You know, you'd be looking after one lady and finishing up with her and waiting for her placenta to deliver, and your next lady would be waiting in the, you know, she'd be 8 centimetres waiting next door for you. So it really was very interesting. And I went on to manage a high dependency unit. So we had a lot of sick ladies in there. So because they had so many babies, they would often have huge postpartum hemorrhages, because the general health of the population wasn't great, and their understanding of their own bodies and their own health wasn't great. We had a huge amount of diabetes, so a very obese population, lots of diabetes, so lots of people needing to be, you know, managed in a very high risk way, people with sickle cell. We had a lot of people come in who, there wasn't much kind of policing of private little satellite clinics from the hospital that I worked in. So we would get women come in who'd had fertility treatment and had been really, really mismanaged and would be really, really sick. So that was really interesting. You know, they'd have had like 10 embryos put back inside them, and yeah, scary. So I was then in a very high-tech environment and high-tech kind of midwifery. And then I met an American and came to live in America, and didn't think I would have any chance of ever doing anything to do with midwifery. I went and worked in an apartment community over there, and I worked in Bath and Body for 2 shifts, which was awful. I thought that I would love that, because Bath and Body was like one of my go-to places when I would come to America to visit my husband's family. I would be like, oh, Bath and Body, and now I never go in there. It was awful. I hated it. So yeah, and then like driving down Hope Mills Road, I feel like it was in my first week here, I saw Monarch Midwifery, and I was like, oh, a midwife. And it took me a while to kind of pluck up courage to contact Donna, and we had a bit of like toing and froing before we finally got together. And so now I work with Donna. Mainly I run her office, so you know, if you call up Monarch Midwifery, you get my voice at the end of the phone. And then I also do birth assisting with her, so I go with her to births and get to see these amazing home births. And I just feel like that is where midwifery should be. Like, to me, when you leave a mom and her baby and their family in their own bed, in their own bedroom, tucked up, that's like, what could be more normal? It just seems so normal to me. And yes, there is a place for the high-tech stuff, and I've done that, but I really feel like home birth is where it's at. You know, why wouldn't you have a baby in the place where you feel the most comfortable and the most safe and the most relaxed? So I've learned so much from Donna, seeing her, you know, look after ladies at home, and there's a whole different approach when you don't have, you know, we were talking about when we worked in hospitals and something went wrong and you pressed the bell and great, like 500 people come in the room and you're fine, you know. So we like, you know, just seeing how you deal with things when they happen at home, but also helping ladies to, you know, to keep going and to be able to cope with their labour at home, and just different ways of approaching, you know, the whole process. So that's hopefully what we're going to share with you today. And I hope that you find it interesting and learn something to take away with you. And then when you are with ladies in labour, you can be amazing and use your skills with them. So,
thank you.
And then one more person introduced is Doris Ann.
Thank you, Tom. I'm, excuse me, Rachel. I'm Doris Ann McMurray, and I'm a birth doula. And there's two types of doulas. There's postpartum doulas and birth doulas. And I've lived here my whole life. And when I went to school after graduation, I knew I wanted to be a nurse, and I knew I wanted to work in labor and delivery, because even when I was like 3 or 4, my mom said that I'd see a pregnant woman and I would just kind of like go to their belly, you know. And she'd say, "I'm so sorry," and they'd say, "No, I'll let you touch it," and I'd have to touch their bellies. And so when I went over to FTCC for the nursing program, you know, you have to do that first year of all that stuff, and I was there for about 3 weeks, and I got called out for my anatomy class. And the teacher said, "You know this stuff, but every time you have a test, you do horrible." I said, "I know." I said, "That's been my whole life." She said, "Well, I'm going to have you tested for something called dyslexic." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I've got something wrong with me." And she's like, "Oh no, it's something kind of new. You got to realize I'm old." I'm not telling you how old I am. So I go and I take this 4-hour test, and I have 3 people come in and do all this stuff with me. And at the end of the day, they tell me, "Get out of nursing. We have a 100% passing rate here, and you'll never pass it. You're severely dyslexic. You do not comprehend what you read, and your test scores you would never make it. Find a trade." And I'm gonna tell you what, John Willis is his name. He looked at me and he said, "You know, I really hate telling you this because I can see that you really wanted to be a nurse." And I said, "Okay." That was in 1979, and I left there. For 2 years, I did nothing but cashier work at Fort Bragg. And after a year there, I was head cashier, and I managed about 13 or 14 women. Now that's a job. Because I was only 19. Okay? And I was head cashier. That meant that I picked up from registers about $10,000 to $20,000 every 6-7 hours. I was very responsible for a lot of money and a lot of women, a lot of people. But I couldn't be a nurse, and I had to find a trade. Remember that. And so every Sunday, this lady would come through my line. Her name was Helen Duggins. And she'd say, "I really wish you'd come to work for me. I love your personality." "Oh, okay, well, I like my job, you know, blah, blah, blah." So after about 3 years, she came through one Sunday, and I was having a horrible day, and I said, "Listen, you still want me to come work for you? What do you do?" And she says, "I manage a office that is in charge of x-rays, Federal x-ray with Cape Fear Valley Hospital." I said, "Oh, I can't work in the medical field." She was like, "What?" Told her my story. She said, "Come to my office on Monday, tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I went. She hired me that day, and she said, "I'm going to have you in billing." 2 weeks later, she brings me in her office, and she said, "Do you still really want to be a nurse one day?" I said, "I just want to work in labor and delivery. I don't care." You know, whatever. She said, "Pardon me?"
How do I get there?
Yeah.
How do I get there?
And so the radiologists, there was 10 of them at the time, and we'd have to go through the ER. So I got to specialize with the little ER doctors, you know, and they'd have pregnant women come in, and I'd get to follow them upstairs, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great." Got to see births upstairs at Cape Fear, everybody in a bed, mind you. But anyway, so she said, "I want you to take this cassette, and I want you to listen to it and type what they're saying." So I started doing interpretation of the x-ray reports. You learn a lot when you hear what doctors dictate. So I was doing dictation now. So that was my job. I learned how audio. So I knew I could do something, right? So I did that job for probably about 13 years. And all that time though, I got to volunteer and go up to labor and delivery. They all knew me. Anybody I met on the street, they were pregnant, I'd go say, call me. I would go with them, you know. So I meet this lady that has a doula. She tells me one day, she's like, you know, I'm asking her, hey, when's your baby due? I'll go in with you. She said, you're a doula. And I said, I'm a what? She said, you're a doula. And I said, no. I said, I just go in for fun. And she said, well, I had a doula with my first birth, and you're doing exactly what she said what she did. Long story kind of short, I met the lady that was a doula, and she asked me to come on board with her company. And I said, I can't, I won't pass the test, I'm da-da-da-da-da. She said, you come with me. So I went to a birth at Womack, and that was in like, when did they open the new one, 2000?
2000.
Okay, first year they were there. And I saw women laboring out of bed. I'd never seen that. I was like, oh my gosh, I let them out of the bed? And then they brought in a midwife, and I was like, oh my gosh, a midwife? Never seen a midwife before. And so I left there, could not sleep, went to a seminar for doulas, went to a workshop the very next week, got my certification in about 4 months because I had enough experience as a doula that, you know, the nurses and doctors just signed off everything. A lot of times it can take women 1 year to 2 years just to get the births. So I was amazed that I could do this. I had my certification, and now I average about 100 births a year. Wow. And I would love to find John Willis and tell him that I made it. So my point here is, don't ever let anyone tell you or keep you from your dream, because you can do this. And as a birth doula, I get to labor women just like the midwives. I get the best part. I get them at home. When you're so intimate with them, but I don't have to do all that paperwork that you guys have to do. And I get to work one-on-one with the midwives and the OB doctors, the families. I just love what I get to do, because I get to the real intimate part. I get to see it all, and I get to hear it all. So when they don't have a good experience about something, that's what doulas are there for. We're an advocate for them. We help them with comfort measures, back massages, feet massages, just relaxation techniques that we're all going to go over with you later on. But also, we're an advocate. We're not there to fight the staff. It makes a big difference when a doula can explain why we're getting ready to use Pitocin, if we have to. We know sometimes those things happen, you just got to do it. And when the doula's there to kind of help them understand the process, it's much easier for that mother to take that than when somebody walks in the door and says, okay, we're going to hang this Pitocin. Because the nurses are kind of busy, and the staff does a great job explaining things sometimes, but just that thought of, we're going to have to hang this Pitocin to get your contractions back up, kind of makes you want to just shut down when you're in labor. But when a doula's there to say, you know what, we're going to work through it, it's going to be okay, it makes a difference. So that's what doulas are there for, is just, for that comfort of helping you with relaxation, but also as an advocate for you, and just that support, okay? We don't do the medical stuff. I just have heard that some doulas are being trained to start checking services. I don't know if that's going to fly in this area or not, because we're still a little backwards here. But other doulas in other states are saying, why are you not doing that? But we're going to find out about that later on. Okay?
So I think we've assembled a pretty interesting team, right?
Yes.
We have a medical midwife, a home birth midwife, a UK midwife, and a doula from New Jersey, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Los Angeles, California, and the UK. We couldn't cover more ground, broader spectrum than what we have here among these four. So I gave you all a set of handouts that says comfort measure on them. Those are for you to read, to know, to learn, to love. And then I have another about 60 pages that is mostly white paper. Okay, it's big print and bibliographies and that kind of stuff that is on Blackboard that you won't be required to read or know. but it's there for background. Remember the hormonal influence of labor 158-page paper that I gave you? The same author wrote an article for a journal, and it's there. So you'll get a lot of what she wanted to say in just a couple of pages instead of 150 pages, which is nice, right? And then what else do we need to know about that? We're going to be in here until 10. There's another class that comes at 10, so we got to scoot, and we're going to go to the sim lab after that and start doing the hands-on stuff. Okay? And with that, I'll leave it to it.
Okay, so that big file that's on the blackboard now, that's for you guys to look back at, maybe after, maybe your girlfriend, maybe your sister, maybe you were pregnant, maybe you're gonna, be like Laura singing and be like, oh, can I go with you to your birth? And so you'll have something to go back and look at, like, oh, what did they say? Where was that acupressure point that was supposed to help? And so it's just kind of a reference for you guys to use, later on. Okay, so we're going to start out with some really fun activities to wake everybody up this morning. So who can give me the definition of what it means to be a midwife? Anybody know what that means? Good.
You deliver baby.
Okay, so I want like I'm giving you a candy. I guess I'm talking about the meaning of the word. So if you go ahead. Oh, okay. So if you were to look up the meaning of the word, what does it mean to be a midwife?
Like the Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah.
Definition.
You're in between something.
Like assisting with birth? Nope, but okay, there you go.
Get your Skittles, girl.
Anybody else want to try it?
I feel like it's like anybody has transmetal life and then doctor, then almost like the middle ground.
Nope, you get a Skittle. You want to try? I see the wheels are spinning.
Is it like the link between before you have your baby until you have your baby in your hands or something?
No, so with woman. Say it again. Woman. That's it. Very simple, right? Very straightforward. We're just with the woman. So that takes out all of the medical interventions, right? If we're just, so we're not doing, we're not helping, we're not fixing, we're just kind of with you, and we're just gonna support you. Who knows, I guess if we didn't know midwife, no one's gonna know doula. Anybody know?
Advocate of the patient.
Very good try, but you know who's a bigger advocate of the patient is the nurse. The nurse, always and forever. You ladies just don't know how important your role is. Even as brand new nurses going out into the hospitals, and even if you're not working labor and delivery. But I'll give you a situation. So remember I went from that granola, earthy, crunchy, lovely little hospital into this big medical hospital? So, I'm not learning anything but now the new system, the new charts, the new whatever. So I'm with another nurse. You still have your orientation to that hospital, right? And so we're doing a delivery and she's kind of showing me, how they do things. And the doctor goes to cut an episiotomy. And I say, oh, do you really think that's necessary? My very first birth, my preceptor almost fell on the floor. She was like, dear Lord Jesus, it's a fire. The doctor stopped and she looked at me and I said, everything's stretching so beautifully. So I was that patient's advocate. She had no idea what was going on. And the doctor was Filipino. She said, oh, you don't think I need to? And I said, no, I don't think you need to. And I saved that mom an episiotomy. Woohoo, go me, right? Yeah. So sometimes, and the doctors used to call me Donna the doula. They thought that was an insult. I wore it as a badge. I wore bright yellow shoes so everybody knew exactly who I was and when I was coming. And did lots of education. And in that crazy busy hospital where I had to put myself back through school, it probably took 5 years to gain the respect of the staff and the physicians. Because when I went in, they said, you're such a sadist. Why would you want women to be in pain? That's ridiculous. I don't understand when they could just have an epidural. And so we're going to get into that very shortly. However, we need you to break into groups of 6. I don't care how you do it, but break into 4 groups of 6, and we're going to do another activity about birth. Cool.
That's a good weekend to come.
Oh, yes, I'm about to get my
Can we write on this board?
No,
Unless you turn it on.
Taylor, Anita, did you say Whitney?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I can. But I'm not.
I don't need all of them either, so I'm not sure. You see me on Ramsey's head?
You can use the
PR5. We'll have 2 groups of 5.
Yeah, what you talking about? Rachel.
Yeah.
When you talking about obesity,
I already have mine.
diabetes,
Hey, get it. Rachel will be like that.
yeah.
You look like a crutch. And then yogurt, you know how there's like the cheesecake flavor and pudding mix? Put that in your yogurt and then it would be like cheesecake. Let me see a show of hands. How many people have actually seen a vaginal birth?
On video. I had a fire. Oh, your own?
I didn't try.
Okay, so what we'd like you to do, some of you, or a lot of you have seen birth, which is great, some of you haven't, but as we were mentioning earlier on, we all have our preconceived idea of what birth is, or what it should be, or shouldn't be, and what I want you to do in your groups is like a little brainstorming exercise, and to write down the words that come to your mind when you think of birth. You know, what pops into your mind straight away. And I want you to cover the page with the words that come to your mind.
Anybody have any words they'd like to have?
Fine.
Thank you.
Words in
Mind when you think of birth. Okay, it's like you have to get it marked right and everything.
The D's and the
right down
I didn't take
I think it is.
I didn't take
It's still a D.
A and
is a cord.
You really like my paper to write on.
First
Oh yeah, I might do.
Like when you said that, I was like, natural.
gas.
Okay, next thing, right up there. I'm like, grabbing everything. I guess that's a verdict. Put attitudes into your Oh, let me tell you, that's a baby daddy. But dad. Family.
You're gonna be like, that's a group.
Oh, yes.
After.
Yeah, we just did it 5 times, no big deal. Who knows what this is? One more piece of candy.
That's it. Oh,
I'm very competitive.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, everybody with his little brother.
Ooh, what's that hair?
He said in the army, like saying it. When was that? Because oh, we can go right next to it.
Oh, the Hulk. Is that what you were?
Birthing song.
Shave.
What about Kobe?
You didn't? My first joke was like,
Everybody else.
I like plain Greek yogurt. I like put them on my pita. Plain Greek yogurt. That's instead of sour cream.
Oh, I like hormones.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to just get up and take a look at the words on the other lists from the other groups and just get an idea of what other people are looking at.
Your guys is very literal over there.
That's very creative.
You guys is very literal.
I know this sounds like
Although I have kind of.
Where's Anita?
I'm here.
I'm about to steal your cup. Look at you. Every time I see this art, I'm like, must have it.
I know you're gonna get it. 18, 9, 18.
I'm probably gonna, I always should have started with the part of the I'll probably do it.
Protein.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Kiana.
I haven't seen Groot.
What?
The Hulk.
And so neat.
That would be my husband. That would be me.
We were getting upgraded. Me too. What was that for?
Oh,
No, Mom.
No, we're just saying like.
Do you say yellow and coffee?
No,
I want to hear it.
Yeah, you're right. We are.
Okay.
You're the only one that just have Mom.
Okay, so as you're going around and you're looking at each other's words, did anything strike you? Did you get a feeling from looking at the words? Did you get an impression of an overall impression of what people think of birth? Did anything jump out at you? What was that?
Baby and family, I think we're pretty,
Baby
And
family.
yeah, emotions on there.
we didn't have
A lot of them.
Baby and family and emotions. Anything else?
everyone has vagina.
We did. Vaginas are definitely involved. Definitely vaginas have a lot to do with it. What about this word? Did you notice this at all? Drama. That's a word I thought really kind of stood out from a lot of your sheets. Anxiety, poo, yelling, pain, fear, a lot of drama. But what we want to try to do as midwives and doulas and birth attendants and labour and delivery nurses, we want to try and reduce the drama. And this is what our comfort measures help us to do. They help us to relax, to bring everything down a notch, to take away that anxiety and reduce the drama. We want birth to be, as this group, number 3, have written. I really like their sheet because they have really positive words: bliss, love, excitement, support, joy, completeness. And that's what I think of when I think of birth is I think of something that should be blissful, it should be amazing, it should be empowering, it should be beautiful, and it should be definitely about your baby and definitely about your family, and it should be about you as a mom and a dad, or a mom and a mom, or however your family works. It should be about the family. It should be about that unit and what they want for their birth and how they want it to be and how they want their baby to come into the world. And we want to try and take away this drama. We want to try and reduce the stress and the drama. But I really like your words. I really think it's interesting. I do this in the childbirth education class, and I get them to write down one word. And sometimes we get positive words like, you know, amazing, beautiful, but often we get blood and poop and gross. But we always laugh, don't we? Because people seem to think that birth is like somebody takes a great big poop and blood balloon and they go, and it goes everywhere. And it's really not like that. It's really not like that. It really is beautiful. And as many births as we've both seen, I think you still get that lump in your throat. And sometimes I remember a birth we had a few months ago, and I looked up, and the dad, the little 2-year-old boy, was kissing the baby, and the dad was crying. Aww. And I was in the bathroom, like washing instruments or something, and I was like, oh my god. It was just so lovely, you know. And he was in his bedroom with his wife and his family, and that's just so beautiful. So your comfort measures, try to keep in your mind, they're about reducing the drama, and they're about keeping the bliss and keeping it peaceful and loving. Did anyone have any questions? Did anyone find it difficult to think of words?
Oh no.
No? Good. We all know about birth, right?
I have a question
Sure.
for you too. Have you ever had a mom that's come in that's had the hospital scary, not nice birth, and then they come to you wanting a home, a more natural birth? Are they able to, I guess, just switch it? Like, are they able to actually enjoy the concept, or do they still have those fears from their past pregnancies and deliveries? Are
All
they
of
able
the
to really
above.
enjoy it?
So we see those women all the time. So one thing that we have, all home birthers have in common, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, a chiropractor, or if you're a farmer, or if you're, you know, rich, or if you're a Medicaid mom, right? The one thing that we all have in common is that we're control freaks. Okay, so we think or know there's got to be a better way to do this. And so it's either from seeing it in our community, hearing about it, knowing someone else that's done it, and then educating ourselves, or having a really bad experience and thinking there's got to be something else that we can do. This was awful, and I don't want to redo that again. And yes, they go into that birth with some of those same fears and anxieties and unknowns, and then they come out on the other side strong and empowered and different. So it's a totally different, you know, kind of experience for that mom. And, you know, I don't know how many, because you're all really young, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yes!
Okay, so in the very beginning, where the mother is telling the daughter that the father may be the head of the house, but the mother is the neck, right?
Yep.
So she can make the head turn any way that she wants. And I strongly believe that. I feel like as women, we are the neck, and we are very capable of steering our family in the direction that we think is best for our family. And so when a woman comes out of a birthing experience, and she feels empowered, and she feels strong, and she feels knowledgeable, well, look out. Because now that's just the stepping stone that we built, right? So now she's going to take off into different directions that she might not have ever done before, because she was kind of kept in a box. There's a lot of things that we say in Monarch, and one of them is we're not all the same. Just because we're all female, just because we all have a uterus, and just because we all might be pregnant right now. We're still different. We come from different walks of life, we have different life experiences, and we want things different. So why is all of your care the same? Why are you being cared for, and why am I being cared for the same exact way? If we're two totally different people. Just because we're female and have a uterus and we're pregnant. So we go into this box. So we want you as nurses to look outside of that box and look at the person, right? And so I know we only have an hour left. I said we could talk forever. We have a couple of cute videos to show you too. But we're going to talk about choice, 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 choice. If you hear us say it once today, we're going to say it 50 million times. Women need to have this choice, right? So it doesn't matter what we think as nurses. We need to respect that family, right? And so there are different cultures that birth different ways. And we thought if we had any time, we would kind of go into them a little bit. But, you know, some people are praying during their labor. Some people are really modest and don't want to be naked. Other people want to be stark naked, right? So, you know, you're uncomfortable, right? You come into your labor room.
She's not stripping.
And your patient's naked, and you come in and you're uncomfortable with that, and that's the first thing that you want to do is put her gown on. Well, she's hot, right? Go back to your hormones of what's going on during labor. Because what, that's hospital policy? What, because that makes you feel uncomfortable because her boobs are showing? Like, that's your issue. She's hot, but you want to do this, right? You want to cover her up, and you want to put that gown on, you're going to tell her it's not too hot. You know, it's a gown, it's flowy, right? So we do it all the time. We just don't realize how much we do it, right? Because we get kind of institutionalized. This is, you know, our home and our rules and our regulations. Yes, it's what we do. Okay, so going through all of the, am I on? Is this on?
Oh, is it this?
Okay, all right. You know what, I forgot. Before we move on to that, and we're still on the whole, what are we feeling, our feelings, our thoughts about birth, I want everybody to just sit now and close your eyes and hear what I have to say about nursing, nursing students, nursing as a profession. Nursing is a really awful career choice to go into because you're not going to make enough money to support yourself. Being a nursing student is ridiculous because as you move into nursing, you're going to be on your feet for 8 to 12 hours a day. I don't know why anybody would ever want to be a nurse. All you're going to do is wipe asses all day. Nurses don't ever make a difference. It's always about the physician. Nurses get stuck working in specific places and become burnt out. Nurses have no autonomy and only take directions from physicians. Okay, so how did that feel?
Annoying, familiar. Because a lot of people have that wrong perspective of nursing, so it does feel a little bit familiar because it's really how some people think.
Mm-hmm. But how does that resonate with you, like as a nursing student? If I were to say to you, that's the worst career choice ever to move into, but we were having an open dialogue, then what would you say back to me?
That you're wrong and misinformed.
Well, based upon what?
And then I'll start from there.
Right. So it's your, you know, we don't agree, right? So it's two different perspectives of nursing, and of course, I don't feel that way at all. I'm a nurse first and foremost and just love it. But what I'm trying to show you is that anybody can have any opinion about any of our choices. And so nursing, of course, was some choice that I know that you all have in common, right? So I can go from there. So now what if I said to you, but I'm a nurse, so I know better that this is not a good career for you to be in. Am I going to change your, are you going to go in withdrawal?
You don't know me.
What?
I would say you don't know me,
Right.
so you can't.
Right. I don't know you, I don't know your walk. Just because I hate being a nurse doesn't mean you would hate being a nurse, right? So most of the things that I said were totally false, right? It's just bad information, like, where did you get that from? Can you back that up with anything? No, I can't. It's just that perceived thought. Some of it was true. You're going to be on your feet for 8 to 12 hours a day. Nursing is a, tough career. But that doesn't mean that we don't do it. And so here we go into the comfort measures of just because somebody else's choice is different than what you would choose for yourself doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, so now what we want you to do is we're going to hand out some more paper, and we want you to, actually, let's rip them in half a little bit.
Okay. A lot of you have pads.
Little pads?
Just use
Yeah.
the little pads.
Okay, so I want you to do, if everybody can do like 2, team up with somebody, and if there's an odd, somebody else team up. And I want you to write something positive that you would give to the other person or say to the other person as encouraging when she was in labor. So pick a partner.
And don't show it to them.
Yeah, just hold it to yourself.
Write it in secret and then fold it in half.
I'm not gonna find it if you're gonna
It's a paper.
Anybody else? Hold them in half when you're done. Now let anybody else see your writing.
Something encouraging to follow while you're in birth.
Could you repeat the instructions?
Something that you would like to give to one of your table members while she was in labor. So something positive, words of affirmation during her labor. So basically maybe something that you would actually like to hear is a good place to start. So if you were in labor or you were in pain, what would be helpful for you to hear from somebody else? So then write that and fold it.
Like one word or a statement?
Either.
Okay.
One word to the statement.
Oh, they had problems with YouTube the other day because it's not
Updated. So do you know how to plug my laptop into that?
Do you have a port?
No.
There might be a port over there.
There's one right here. You need a cord to just pick it up.
Ta-da!
HDMI. Yeah. As long as you have a pair. Does it still work with the regular laptop? Check the bottom one. That's it.
You read it?
Well, I mean, like outside. Oh, no, I go tomorrow. Friday. Oh, okay. Good job.
We wrote the same.
I'm not finding the best information. I always think about like that's what I think, you know what I mean? Like it's not just permanent. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm thinking. So like I'm like, well, I know it's not permanent. So I think my little
Going in.
did you write stuff?
It's gonna be, yeah.
That's what I said.
Okay, so now what we want you to do is take your birth affirmation that you folded in half and give it to someone at your table.
Good job.
Someone from group 1 stands up and reads your birth affirmation that was given to
You can do this. Take a deep breath.
Yes.
All of this will be worth it when you see the face of your beautiful baby.
Okay, so that is really good. So one of the things that I find when women are laboring is that they're thinking about the pain, the discomfort, and what's going on for them. However, when you remind that mom that the baby's working with her and that this isn't pain without a purpose, that she's going to get this cute little squishy baby afterwards, it takes her to a different place, right? So it's not like you're passing a kidney stone, right? It's that you're going to get a cute little baby right after this. It's going to be breastfeeding. And so bringing it back around to like, oh yeah, there's a baby that I'm going to get out of this, kind of makes the energy and the hormones change.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Kind of sidebarring off of that. Obviously, home birth and what you do is a very natural and holistic experience. Do you ever have mothers who do the whole water birth and natural birth, but they don't want to breastfeed?
Not really. When we do that interview, back and forth, so if she's had a baby before and she's coming to me, I want to know how long she breastfed the other baby. And if it's her first pregnancy, I want to know how long she's planning on breastfeeding. And if she says like 9 months, I was thinking, I say to her, it's a criteria that you pinky promise me that you're going to breastfeed this baby for at least a year. So that means...
So you don't give them the option to not do it?
I mean, everybody has the option, of course.
Right.
But, you know, we want them to do the best for the baby.
Right.
And so that means that you have me for a year. That means you can call me with any breastfeeding issue. I'll come to see you. You can come to see me. I'm not going to charge you anything. I will help you. If you were dedicated to breastfeeding your baby for a year, like I'm with you. You call me. I say, like, if you're going to give formula at 3 in the morning, that's a medical emergency. You pick up the phone and call your midwife. You don't do that. Because now you're causing more problems for me to fix than me just getting my ass up out of bed and coming over and helping you with the original problem at 3 a.m.
Wow.
So that's our promise to each other. Now, do I have moms that don't make it a year? Absolutely. Are there rare occasions where moms can't breastfeed? Absolutely. And we support her and we, you know, help her through that passage, but it's usually very, very sad for her. Like we had a mom with a breast reduction who just wasn't making enough milk. There wasn't anything there. And I said, you know, and she's bawling her eyeballs out. And I said, okay, but we need to feed the baby, right? That's the most important thing. We need to keep this baby alive. So we knew this might be an issue. So do we say, like, kick her to the curb? No, right? Because we're about empowering women to empower the family. So we will be with her and walk her through that journey, or walk with her through that journey. But yes, we want mom's commitment to pinky promise. Okay, group 2, read us a positive affirmation.
All right.
It's okay. I wrote a paragraph and it said,
Paragraph.
I'm right here by your side. You can do this. This is the day that you have been waiting for. You'll see your baby soon. Relax, breathe, and remember, you are a strong lady, and you can do this. Everything is going to be okay.
She's hired.
She's so therapeutic. She's just like it could be my favorite. I really need to bring baby. That was really good.
I thought of something that I want to hear when I'm birthing, so I'm like, oh, this is what I'm going to hear.
All right. And what about that is it that you want to hear? That what I'm hearing is, number one, you're supported. So somebody else is with you. That was like your first number one thing, right? So somebody is with me. Number 2, that you're strong. And that your baby is working with you, and that's going to be your end result. And the reassurance of like, just breathe, like this is going to happen. Beautiful. Okay, group 3.
You are doing the most beautiful thing in the world. You are almost there.
Bam.
Hey, you know what happens when we tell a mom that she's almost there? It's not true. She believes it. And then you want to know what happens? She's almost there.
Visual imagery.
Positive affirmation.
Yep. So, right? It's like you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train.
I heard that.
Right? So really, she believes what you're telling her. And not just at home, like in the hospital. She's looking to you. She's coming in. She's scared. We're stripping her of her clothes, putting her in a gown, putting her in a bed, strapping her in. Her contractions are slowing down. She's confused, upset. She thinks her doctor's going to meet her there, which is just ridiculous. Like, Dr. Brainline said he's going to meet me here. Like, oh yeah, maybe tomorrow. Like tonight, you're mine, right? So he's not coming in to tuck you into bed. Like, that's just not happening. So she's looking to you for everything. Okay, group 4.
All right, you are beautiful and strong. Keep up the good work. The prize is on the way.
Great. Right, so the prize being the baby once again. So we're taking it out of you're suffering, you're so uncomfortable, I don't understand why you just want to get an epidural, right? And making it about the mom and the baby. Okay, so since we're talking about the comfort measures, and that's what our main focus is, I don't know how many, and you can show me with your hands, how many people are thinking like, oh my gosh, why would you just not go ahead and get the epidural? No, that's fine. I feel like a lot of people have that thought process, right? Like, why would you go through all of that uncomfort, pain, stuff when you could just go in and get a little medication and you would be totally fine. You still get a baby at the end, right? Yeah. And that happens. And there's, you know, sometimes that we need an epidural. Can you kill that light?
Can I say one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, before we go on to this, that I just wanted to say about the affirmations and how what you say makes a difference. And that is that the women that I've looked after who have later on said to me or said to a colleague or said to a friend, you know, like when Rachel said this or did this, that made such a difference to me. And you know, most of the time it's something I didn't even know I did, I didn't even know I said, but it just really hits home to me how much of an impact you as care providers have in what you say and how you say it and the little things that you do that you think aren't important or don't make a difference really, really do. And then on the other side of that, the negative things as well. So what you say has such a meaning and such an impact on the people in your care. So if you're with ladies in labour, you know, be really mindful of what you say, and things like this. Yeah, you know, they'll be like, oh, I remember that you came and I was really struggling and you told me that I am a strong woman and I can do this and I'm beautiful, and you know, like, that really gave me encouragement. So don't ever think that what you're doing doesn't make a difference or isn't important, because it will be the times when you least expect it that you really did make a difference to someone. That's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely, I agree. No, go right ahead. Anybody can move to see the screen. We're going to show, this one's like maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're going to show another one that's even shorter than that.
Yeah, and now
If it's too loud or not loud enough, are you
All the signs that it's
so confusing? I just like this thing.
Lucky enough to be a speaker at that event as well. But there was one amazing speaker. She was the keynote speaker that I got to meet and listen to her opinions on birth and labour and parenting and things like that. And that was world-renowned birth expert and author Dr. Sarah Buckley. So as you can imagine, I was furiously taking notes, and I wanted to share some of the really important points and really interesting things that she brought to the table. Now, one of the topics Dr. Buckley talked about was the effects of common medical interventions in labour. And I'm going to do a couple of videos on each of these interventions. So today I'm going to be talking about epidurals, but I also want to, I guess, give a little bit of a warning that sometimes this information and topics can trigger people and can be a little bit emotionally kind of unsettling. So if you feel that this is going to trigger you, please don't watch or don't listen. This is really to inform you, not to, you know, say that you've done the right or the wrong thing. This is about educating you so that you can make informed decisions. I am going to reveal to you some of the side effects of an epidural that you may not have known about. An epidural can reduce natural birthing hormones that you would normally release if you didn't have an epidural. So one of those is oxytocin, which reduces fear. It also works with the parasympathetic nervous system and usually makes us feel calm and connected. So when you have an epidural, you don't have these hormones pumping around your body. It can also reduce endorphins, which endorphins is a natural painkiller. An epidural also reduces blood supply to the uterus and the baby. It can also prolong labour, which means that you are also then 3 times more likely to need synthetic oxytocin to speed labour up again. Now that might be called pitocin or syntocin, and you know, depending on where or what country or what city you're giving birth in. An epidural can also increase your temperature. It inhibits the Ferguson reflex. And this reflex is when the baby is like fully descended about, you know, kind of, I guess, when you're ready to push the baby out. And what happens is your body kind of has these reflexes and helps you push the baby out. So sometimes you feel that urge to push or urge to bear down. And this is inhibited when you have an epidural. So, but even if you, you know, let the epidural wear off and you sort of can feel what's happening down there, the Ferguson reflex is still inhibited by the after effects of that epidural. Contrary to popular belief, an epidural does cross the placenta to the baby. Often babies are less alert and they cry more in the first 6 weeks of their life. On average, mothers spend less time with the newborn if they've had an epidural, so babies spend more time in the nursery. And I know that can, you know, all this sort of stuff just sounds a little bit scary. So again, this may not happen to you. It may be different in your situation. So I just want to make sure that you understand everyone is different, every baby is different, every woman's body is different. If it is the safest way for you to give birth to that baby, you know, now you know what you're having, what the effects could be on your birth and your baby. And also now that you know this information, it might actually kind of, I don't know, inspire you or spur you on to find out, hey, actually, how can I give birth without having an epidural? And it's definitely possible because I know there are thousands and thousands of women giving birth without epidurals every single day. In fact, I was one of them. And before you jump to conclusions, no, I don't have a high pain tolerance. In fact, I'm a total wuss. But I did know how to use a lot of my birthing hormones, which I mentioned before, are natural painkillers. And the thing is, most people just don't know how to switch these on and off during labour. I mean, if you knew how to use your natural painkilling hormones, wouldn't you want to know how to switch them on and off at the right times? So to get more educated about your natural birthing body and how to use things, that you're already born with. We are born to give birth. We have a uterus, and what else do you use a uterus for, right? We are born to give birth. So if you want some more info, some more inspiration, more encouragement, more education, head over to my website, hypnobirthingrocks.com. If you like this video, please like it. If you know someone else that this video would specifically help, please share it to them. I'm sure they would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. I mean, we just all want to get the word out there that positive birthing is possible, and you don't have to be a total hippie to do it either. And if you want to know a little bit more about Dr. Sarah Buckley, I highly recommend having a look at this book, Gentle Birth, Gentle Mothering. Look, I have a special signed copy. She is such an amazing woman. So go and have a look at that. I will put a link down to her website as well down below this video, or somewhere around it where I will. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Okay, so what was she talking about when she said if we could just release the hormones and able to have a good experience? Does anybody know?
I think when you relax and breathe, it helps to release those things, right?
Absolutely, but
And don't focus on the pain.
right. And sometimes we don't even use the word pain. It's more pressure. Rachel's going to explain to you a little bit about the gate theory of pain. Has anybody heard that as a nursing student? Yes, no? Gate theory?
Okay, so I'm gonna explain it in very simple terms, which is how I understand things. And the gate theory is really, I first learned about the gate theory, I guess, as a student midwife, and then when I started practicing as a midwife, because in England we really use the TENS machine a lot. Have you heard of the TENS machine?
Yeah.
Yes. Who hasn't? So the TENS machine, it stands for trans-electrical nerve stimulation. They use it a lot in physiotherapy with sports injuries and that kind of thing. It's 4 pads, 2 go under your bra strap here, and 2 go on your sacrum. And it's attached to a little control unit, and it gives you a little electric shock, basically, a little electric shock. And it feels like pins and needles, or do you call it pins and needles here? I'm always using words that Americans don't understand. So, like a tingly feeling.
Yeah.
And you put it on in early labour, and it stimulates the production of endorphins, your natural painkillers, but it also acts as a distraction. And that's really the premise behind the gate theory, which is that if you have pain, you have pain signals travelling along nerve cells.
Imagine 2 cars.
The introduction of a stimulus, whether it's touch, or it's hot, or it's cold, or it's the TENS machine, interrupts those pain signals and closes the gate, and you aren't as aware of the pain. The pain doesn't bother you as much. And I've seen women who have the TENS machine on, and they've had it on since early labour, and then they get going, and then they're in advanced labour, and they're like, oh, this thing's not doing anything. And then you take it off, or you turn it off, and they're like, no, put it back on, put it back on. I've also seen them where they have the little unit, and they're in their contraction, in the zone. Their husband's like, oh, I don't think that's working. I'm going to turn it up. Oh, big mistake. Because then they're like, ah! Leaping off the bed. They've suddenly got curly hair because they've had this massive electric shock. So they start it off low, and then they increase it and increase it. And when it's on the maximum setting, and if you or I put it on our skin, we wouldn't be able to tolerate it. If they've had it on all through labour and they build it up, they can have it on the maximum setting, and like I say, not be aware that it's working, but it really is, it's really good. So this video I also show at our comfort measures class for our parents, and I think it explains it far more articulately than I can. It's like a nanosecond, so don't blink.
Imagine two cars on a highway. Pain likes to travel to the brain at about 30 to 50 miles per hour. But then if you place a cold or a hot pack or even touch the skin, that travels to the brain at about 100 miles per hour. So it cuts off the pain signal to the brain. And instead of your brain perceiving the pain, it perceives the hot, cold, or touch instead. And that's how the gate control theory of pain works.
So simple but very effective. Very effective.
So we always want to feel pleasure over pain, right? And so that's why the pleasure travels faster than the pain stimulus, right? And so some of the techniques that we're going to show you are of course going to be pleasure. So now we talked about how you can make an influence with your words and your affirmations and your body language, and then we're going to go into the actual hands-on techniques that you can use for comfort and making your patients, in a happier place once we get over into the lab. Is there any questions that anybody has on anything that we kind of went over or that you would like for us to go over?
On that first video, what, for instance, my example, when my water broke, I never went into active labor. I ended up having a C-section and I never dilated. What was going on with me? Is that hormonal?
They probably didn't give you enough time to do that.
No, there was enough time.
How much time did they let you go?
They had, I think, well, it was at Wilford Hall Military Hospital. But there's a certain time frame before, sepsis can set in, right?
Okay, so that's not necessarily true either. So a lot of things that you're gonna hear from other nurses, maybe even that work in labor and delivery, are not always factual. Unfortunately, we do not practice evidence-based medicine in the United States of America. So the statistics show us 90% of women will go into labor within the first 24 hours. Will the hospital let you wait that long? Absolutely not. Another 5% will go into labor within 48 hours.
After the water break.
After the water breaks. Another 5%, we have no rhyme or reason. That could have been, 23 weeks that she ruptured. Maybe she never goes into labor. It's very rare, but it can happen. So 95% of women will go into labor all on their own within 48 hours. But as a society, that's not acceptable, right? And so people will also talk about, and maybe not so much in your generation, but you'll hear older people talk about like a dry birth. And there's no such thing as a dry birth. Baby constantly makes fluid. So just because you're still leaking fluid, you're still drinking fluid, and it's still making fluid. So there's still fluid to be had. It's not like there's nothing in there for the baby.
The other thing as well is when someone's told you like, okay, now it's 9:30, if you haven't gone into labour by 9:30 tonight, then we're going to do a C-section, then you're like, oh, okay, I really have to go into labour, and you're like tense, and oh my gosh, and so that just like throws everything off. How are you supposed to be in like the right frame of mind and get your hormones going? It's like your psychology has such a huge impact on it, and if you feel like you're on a clock, then you're going to be doing everything the opposite to what we want you to be doing to be in a good position to go into labour.
So if we talk about, going into labor, labor starting, or what our expectations are, did you guys learn about Freeman and his curve? Okay, so Freeman is this old dude, like forever ago, who said if it's your first baby, you should dilate 1 centimeter every hour and a half. If it's an additional baby after that, you should dilate 1 centimeter an hour. And so once you get into the hospital setting, you're put on that time clock, okay? Once you're put on that time clock and you fall off of Freeman's curve, then they want to start Pitocin, right? So now we're starting Pitocin. So now we start Pitocin, and we're going to show you how difficult it is to be strapped down to the bed having contractions that are painful with Pitocin, because what does Pitocin do? The mechanism of the drug is to make the contractions stronger and closer together, right? So that's what we're doing. And now we're making you sit still. So even if you wanted to go natural, at this point you're like, oh my God, where is that anesthesiologist at, right? Because you can't work with your body, you can't work with the labor, the contractions are way more intense than what the baby and your body would have given you. And so, yeah, you're really thankful that the anesthesiologist is right down the hall to come in and give you some relief. So, you know, there's that.
And feel the stress.
There's a lot of fear and stress that will keep you from going into labor and can stop your labor. So when we talk about, you know, okay, so we're going to give good feelings, right? We're going to try to come in and knock that pathway off, right? If you have an overwhelming amount of these bad feelings and not enough of these good feelings coming through, then nothing can happen. So if we go back to the whole fight or flight, right? So what happens if somebody is coming at you with a knife? Right? So your adrenaline kicks in and you're going to start running as they're chasing you down the street, right? So, you know, lots of times when I'm trying to get fit and I try to like run on the treadmill, I'm like, oh my God, I would just let them stab me to death, right? I just can't even do this running, right? So, too old to be doing that, right? So, anyway, but when your adrenaline kicks in, like we can do so many things, right? So that's what can happen against us in labor, like Rachael talked about, right? So if they're telling you you have to do something, and now you're scared, nervous, like, oh, I didn't want a C-section, that's the last thing that I wanted to do. Now your body's releasing all of those endorphins that are stopping any contractions that might happen. Does anybody know what oxytocin, that hormone, is associated with? That's our love hormone. So when we have an orgasm, that's what's released. So think about somebody chasing you with a knife versus having an orgasm, right? Two totally different hormones that are going on.
Do you like having the knife to your neck?
She said together.
We'll have them together, that's a whole nother class on sexuality. And maybe even fetishes, I don't know. But yes, so that's two different hormones that need to be released and that are coming in. So if you can't be feeling all lovey-dovey over here and being scared at the same time. You just can't do it. So lots of times when we go into the house, I specifically will not ask my couples any like relationship kind of questions. And so when mom seems to be, you know, maybe taking a while or feeling a little bit uptight, I'll say, how did you guys meet? Right? And so now it's going to bring her back to a time that was happy and filled with love. And how did he propose to you? What was your wedding like? Right? So now, what is she doing? The first thing is like, right? That memory. So she hasn't even said anything yet. I'm just saying, like, how did you meet your husband? And just that thought makes her smile. Right? So now we're starting to bring her over to releasing those love hormones. Okay? And so sometimes they need to be by themselves. So we'll just have like the husband and wife, like, just spend some couple of contractions together. You know, just a little snuggly time. I know you guys laugh, but it's, I mean, it really works. It's those hormones, you know, and as medical professionals that we are, we think that we, you know, we're going to come in, we're going to take care of everything, and you're going to stand over there, and she's going to be in the bed, and we're going to do our job, and we're going to ask our questions, and we totally took him out of the whole piece of it, right? We don't have any connection with her. Lots of times now we're on the computer, right? Right here, and she's in the bed right there. We haven't even looked at her yet, because we're still, are you allergic to anything? Have you had any surgeries? Right? How is your anesthesia? Are you safe at home? Any pets in the house? You know, and she's like, and you're like, still here, right? So we don't have a connection yet. We push the husband out of the way so he doesn't have that connection. And, you know, it makes it difficult then for her to feel connected to anybody and feel that love hormone in the room. Okay, questions?
I think Whitney has a question.
I did, I was gonna ask, from the initial interview that you have all the way to the actual birth, when they're doing the natural or they're doing whatever they're doing in an emergency situation arises, or you notice the baby's incapable of doing a vaginal birth, or what happens then? I mean,
We go to the hospital.
and then the C-section would be performed.
Sometimes not. Sometimes the mom just can't maybe get the baby all the way out and they're able to use a vacuum. And so she can still have a vaginal birth. I feel like maybe twice, maybe 3 times, she got an epidural and was able to have a vaginal birth. So, you know, sometimes they need that epidural. Just like, you know, the first video was saying, like, there's a time and a place for everything. We're not against doctors, we're not against hospitals. If you need an epidural, then by God, go and get an epidural. However, we're made to do this. This is what we're made to do. Can anybody tell me when birth moved into the hospital? What year?
1974.
1950. Birth did not move into the hospital until the 1950s. So what the hell did everybody do before that? Right? Birth at home with the midwife. Right. And was the midwife trained? Did she have a special training? No. No, because what does midwife mean? Women, right? So this was like a community of women, and then, you know, the elders who had births, you know, would come and be with you and help you. And what do you think they did? Right, everything that we're going to do in that comfort lab over there today. That's what they did. Because what else did they have? Right? They didn't have bells and whistles and, you know, all that kind of crazy stuff going on. All they had was the experience and the knowledge of the births that they attended as they went through. So really, you know, as the professionals, we're not really doing anything. You know, we're just kind of watching over the woman and the baby to make sure that they're safe. And then if they're not, you know, if we're in the hospital setting, we're reporting to the midwife or to the physician. You know, if things aren't going the way they should be going, and it's the same thing at home. If they're not going that way, then we go to a higher level of care. Go ahead.
I do have a question. It's kind of off topic in one sense. So, the insurance companies, are you guys covered under insurance?
Most of the time, but we're out of network. So we won't network with the insurance companies because it's just not worth it. What the reimbursement they want to pay. A home birth is about $4,000. A hospital birth is about $10,000. And they still don't cover it completely.
Do you think that might be one of the deciding factors of whether to have it?
No, absolutely not.
No?
I really don't feel, at least in my practice, I don't feel that way because I feel like we work with the clients if they're really motivated to have a home birth financially. We want you to show that you're motivated though, that you know, it's worth it to you, that you are gonna pay for your birth out of pocket. So we're not giving away our services. Right. However, you know, we'll work with you. It's not like, oh, you can't come to your prenatal unless your bill is paid. Or, you know, we're not gonna show up if you call us and you're in labor and your birth isn't paid off, right? So, you know, it's not that relationship. So I think when people really want it bad enough, they figure out a way. And that's who we want to home birth. Like, we don't want you to home birth. We don't. We want somebody who wants that experience and is seeking us out. Like, I do no advertising. We have a website. So if you're looking for something different, you're gonna find us. But we're not looking to bring in anybody. It's something that, you know, you need to want to do as a woman. Yes?
But do you do any information for people who maybe they're not pregnant, they're not actively looking, but maybe you want to kind of explain it because maybe they don't know that they're not looking because they don't know about it?
Yes, so that's one of the reasons why we're here, right? Not only to teach you ladies how to help women in labor, but to like let you know that there are other options and alternatives for, you know, pregnancy and labor and delivery. And so sometimes the practice gets so busy, but, you know, my goal is to, you know, get out to the high school and do like a labor fair and say like, oh yeah, there's midwives out there. And just options out there and just educate yourself. But usually it's, you know, a friend.
I think that's our best advertisement is our moms and people, you know, particularly I notice it because I'm the one that answers the phone in the office, is people will be like, oh hi, my friend had a home birth with you, or my friend told me that she knows someone. You know, it's always like word of mouth and people have heard about us, and even people for the classes will phone, you know, maybe they come to the classes but they're not planning to have a home birth, and that's very much been like a word of mouth thing as well, so.
Right, so let's say you wanted to go natural, but you weren't comfortable doing it at home, and we were friends. I would say, oh my gosh, well, you should go and take the classes so you're educated, know what you can do to be prepared for that birth, you know, if you don't want an epidural. And then we kind of, you know, set you up there. And we're in the community, so I'll say all the time, like, I actually try to talk people out of home birth when they come for the meet and greet, right? And I say, we're here. We are here. We're in the community. If you decide not to home birth, totally fine with us. Call us if you need referrals for a doula or a hospital or a doctor, or if you're having issues with breastfeeding after you've delivered. And so we see that too.
Did you ever say we're doing it?
No, I didn't. Did you have an answer for me?
No.
Okay.
Isn't it like a career coach?
No, it's a female slave.
What?
That's the definition, right?
Female slave.
They're gonna be in here in 10 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so do we need to move?
Tom said yes.
Okay, so let's move. Does anybody need a little sugar pick me up?
Yes.
Get it.
Here.
Boom.
You can't eat it until that
Before everybody leaves, we need to turn this back into a classroom because there's a class at 10 o'clock. So I just need a couple of people to help me organize
You know
this.
what?
Yeah.
Better.
I like it. This room is designed to be used. It's a Give me.